Hey guys, welcome back to our Non-Toxic Podcast. I'm Hannah and I am here for the actual number 87th episode. Last week I said it was the 87th and I was sadly mistaken, but unfortunately we have no producer nor anyone here to fact check me, so everything I say is to be taken as law. Lots of fun topics today. Not really. I am pressing myself out of my comfort zone, but that's what we do every single week. And luckily it's just me in this room, so no one is here to make me uncomfortable. I am by myself today. We'll have guests for the next 2 to 3 weeks. I have a couple guests coming up that I've been trying to get for a long time and schedules just haven't worked out. So I'm super excited for the next two. There's going to be such fun conversations, and they were both actually requested guests, which is going to be fun because I wanted them on. But even though I do like to commandeer the podcast and do what I think would be good, sometimes it's nice that I have the affirmation of knowing that people actually requested to have them on. So stay tuned for those. It's going to be very exciting. First order of business, my hair is very cute. It's okay. You can tell me that. I was going for like, don't look at how dirty it is kind of thing. I did get it done. Thank you for noticing. I had made it so long without getting my hair done. And there's nothing wrong with letting your roots grow out. It's just that mine are so the way that my hair, I like it to look. So the color that it is artificially is this light, like strawberry blondish shade. And the way that it now grows out of my head is like a really, really dark brown. And eventually maybe I will just bite the bullet and dye it that dark brown. But I feel like I'm just in my soul, like a light haired, reddish kind of girl. And I always go back and forth, as we all do. None of us are satisfied. It's so sadly poetic that you always want what you can't have. So whenever my hair is like a vibrant, super orangey red, I love it because I feel like it's so unique and fun, but I don't think it's the most flattering like look on me. So this lighter color, especially with a tan, it's just my favorite look. I feel the most confident. It's so nice. Honestly, I was trying to emulate myself from last summer because I feel like she really had it going on. I'm trying to get back to that. I don't know what it was. Literally not much has changed as far as my physical appearance. I just think that she knew what she was doing. I'm like, could I have recorded a makeup tutorial or something back then? I don't know if this is a universal experience or not, but I've been recording more TikToks, and part of them obviously would be nice to pop off a little bit, but a lot of it is for myself in the future because I was just reflecting on this time last year, and this is whenever things started to really get crazy for me. And is it realistic for me to have made content this time last year? No, not at all. I was very busy with work and everything else, and I was about to start traveling. Actually, it was a year ago on the 18th. So in 2 days, I would have flown down to Dallas for my very first work contract that was out of state. And I was just so slamma-jammed, work, busy, like chaos. And I would give anything to see a day in my life during that time period. And similarly, I'll sometimes reflect back and be like, my makeup was so flawless, and what the heck was I doing? Or my workout routine and different things. And I guess you always assume, or you have this slow evolution of what you do day to day, or what you do with your hair and your makeup and your workout and just life, that you don't think it's that remarkable because it's what you do every day. And then I sometimes just want to look back and see, like, how was I doing my foundation? What makeup brands was I using? How was I curling my hair? Because it looked so nice. And then you slowly evolve away from it. And you almost forget those little tips and tricks that are so characteristic of that time period. So yes, it would be nice if I could just get some like free PR stuff. That's like the level of influencer that I think would be amazing to be at. But mainly I am doing these little like vlogs to, I don't know, romanticize this time of my life and make these videos so I can look back on that particular period, this particular period, one day when things change. So kind of making a little fun game out of that. I have graduated from 300 view jail on TikTok. If you're not sure what that is, it's whenever you have consistent like views that are it's almost comical how similar every single video performs. You'll get between like 300 to 350 views on every single video, no matter how vastly different they are. And we call that 300 view jail because you can't really break out of it. And it's like you get all those views in an instant and then they just never go anywhere. So that's what's happening to me. But I did break out of it. Now I have graduated to 200 view jail. I have officially begun to get fewer views on my videos, which is so encouraging. And I just love that the algorithm is so uplifting in that way. But follow me on TikTok if you care at all. If you're watching this, maybe you don't hate the sound of my voice. So that could be good. It's always awkward to do little speaking videos, but that also is something I've been trying to overcome, given the fact that I have a podcast. I should probably feel less out of my comfort zone speaking to a camera on like a smaller scale. But there's something about like the instantaneous nature of it being posted. When I record this, it's not going up for at least 48 hours, sometimes less than that, because sometimes I don't plan ahead very well, but this time it's going to go up in a couple days and I don't really like see the instant reaction from it. There's no comment section. So I guess there's on YouTube. But I don't really pay attention to that so much, but it just feels different, like more removed from the audience. And TikTok, you see it instantly, like in real time, people not caring. And sometimes that can be a little tough to stomach, but that is okay. Moving right along. I had the most amazing event yesterday. Also, I want to note my outfit, I look like a character from a 90s movie. These are like not, I don't know what kind of jeans they are, but it's the kind that people wore all the time in the 2000s. And my little sweater and my hair, I feel like it's giving like 10 things I hate about you realness. Maybe, maybe not. Also, it's 108 million degrees in the studio. And I don't know why I forgot that it gets a little toasty in here, especially under the hot lights. But I was chilly this morning and I just felt like it. And the sweater is very soft. So moving along. Also, I switched up my order this morning and I love the Urban Ground specials, but I was just feeling something different. So also I did get it yesterday too. So when you get it so often, unless it was the Moon Mallow, Urban Grounds, if you're listening, I am begging you to bring it back. Please, with everything in me. That was the best drink I've ever had in my entire life. This one's good too. This is just an iced latte with brown sugar and toffee nut, and it has brown sugar cold foam on top of it. So delicious, classic little latte. Also, it's very early again because I had to get this recording in before I go watch Austin get his sinuses flushed out because it's his second post-op appointment and I'm a good wife and I'm going to go, not just because I want to watch him squirm. But anywho, back to the event. So yesterday I got to go to Media Day at Thunder Ridge Nature Arena, which is a big cedar property. It's their concert venue. And I don't know why I was invited, for one. I was recommended along with my friend Morgan. You know Morgan. Also, we recorded an episode last week, so stay tuned for that on her podcast. But it was kind of like a last minute thing. Not, I guess not necessarily, but it's pretty recent. So last week she asked me if I would be interested and said that we were both like had our names in talks of like being added to the list. And I was like, well, yeah, obviously I'd be interested. So our emails got passed along and we got an email from the PR person that was in charge of all of the Thunder Ridge events. And I don't know how these things work because I have not been invited to many of them. I've done a couple like collaborations in the past, and the most recent one was with Finley Farms, Ozark Mill. And I believe that's also a Big Cedar property. I'm not Big Cedar, but Johnny Morris under the whole umbrella of his empire. That was so fun. But that happened through Instagram DMs, which is how most of my collaborations come to be. So Instagram is my life force. That's how I met my husband. That's how I met several of my best friends. That's how my business functions. That is like, Instagram is so silly, but at the same time, it's given me so much that I can't help but love it. So I received a DM a few weeks ago, or a few months ago, I guess now, from Ozark Mill, Finley Farms, and they were asking me to do this collaboration. And I obviously said yes. It's my favorite restaurant. And I got to go out there to taste their new menu, and they gave me the deliverables of what I was supposed to post and what time to be there, what window, everything. And of course, I know their social media, and you kind of look at the presence of the account that you're working with to see how you should present your content, but they also want it to be authentic to you. You would think, or they wouldn't ask. So I tried to keep it a little bit more serious than I typically would do, just out of respect for their brand. But it was amazing. And honestly, everything I got to try there was also fantastic. So even if I wasn't inclined to give them a better review because of how kind they were, it would have been the same sky high point system, just because it's all amazing. But whenever I got there, they had the menu that had my name on it, and it said, Hannah's menu, and everything was just so cute. And it made me feel so special. I literally took a copy of the menu home because I was just so touched and flattered. And I was like, why on earth would they ask me to do this? But it's so much fun. And that was already so cool. Got to bring Austin to that. He thought it was very fun. Fast forward, we get our names put in, get the email. I got the email, I think, last Thursday or Friday, and the subject line said VIP food tasting. So, of course, I was already like, no, did they have the right Hannah? Because surely there's one that's more important than me. But I'm also not going to ask questions. If I get invited to something that's not something that I feel like I belong at, I'm not going to be the one to sound the alarm. So they gave us like where to park, what to do, etc. There was no deliverable requirement. So I just emailed back like, is there dress code? Do you have deliverables that we want to meet? And I ended up chatting with the PR girl on the phone for a little bit. And she's like, no, just wear shoes. You can get dusty. It's kind of an active construction site. Go out, just make some content, tag us in it. And that's that. Just come out and have a good time. And the reason that we were being invited out there was because they're debuting their party barn. If you've never been to Thunder Ridge, it's a beautiful, like, think Red Rocks Amphitheater in Colorado, but in Missouri, and you can see this like panoramic view of it's actually called the Boston Mountains. Didn't know that. In Arkansas, you can see Table Rock Lake. It's just so stunning. But I've been there for a couple concerts before, and I'm always down like in the dusty field near the stage area. I've not been up to the restaurants and everything before. So they have different suites you can sit in. You have, restaurant, bar, some down, whatever. You'll see if you ever go to a concert there. If not, it doesn't matter to you anyways. But the Party Barn is like a new place that you can go basically watch from a box. Like it's a public box. You can sit. There's a balcony that overlooks the incredible view and the concert stage. There's also meals and everything inside. Very cool. So I got invited. Morgan and I are going. We had Austin drive us because it's always better whenever you have someone to take you somewhere. And he was also going to take photos and video for us, which is nice because whenever you go to make content, you want to be present and enjoy things. Obviously, we're there to create content. So trying to find the balance between enjoying it and not being those people that are always, holding up your phones. And even though we knew that's the reason we were being invited, there's still something about, two young girls constantly on their phones that just fits a stereotype that we were trying to be a little bit more professional than. So having him there was very helpful because he could take photos and videos for us. And he also got the free food, which he enjoyed. So we drove down, got to the event. They had a little guy in a side-by-side, a security officer, and it was kind of cool because he had his list. We had to give our names. Felt very official. He escorts us down to the lodge, which is where you kind of enter in. Got there, they gave us a welcome mocktail, and they even had the TR logo engraved into the ice. It was the cutest thing ever. Gave us a couple mocktails. Everyone was so kind and so friendly, and it was just very welcoming. It felt like they wanted you there. It never felt like, hi, I'm here for the event. And not that I've done any major collaborations before, but there's been different things where, I'll do a trade or I'll do something here and there, and you show up and you're like, oh, I'm here to get, the facial, and they're like, what? I'm like, oh, I'm here. I'm getting a facial. Like, it's supposed to be with this person. And they're like, okay, well, do you have an appointment? I'm like, oh, no, it was supposed to be like I'm not going to pay. Like, it's and then it's just uncomfortable because you don't want to be that person that points out, I'm not paying for this. We're doing it as a social media exchange, even though that was the game plan. It just always feels so presumptuous and obnoxious to say. So I hate those situations. This one was obviously, it was big cedar, so it was way more polished, but it was so fun. And had this time period where we could do like photos. I got some footage for our content and sipped on our drinks. People were showing up. There were a couple people from Green Color 10, some radio hosts, people that are just bigger deals than me generally. Not Morgan, she's amazing, but I don't know. It was like an odd feeling because it was media day, and technically, I guess our podcast could be considered media, but it's just unusual because I don't think of it that way. I think of it as like my personal online diary. Anywho, we move from the lodge to the party barn, and everything is set up so immaculately. They have these giant foodscapes. The chefs are there. They have servers. They have gift baskets on the tables. It's the most gorgeous view you can imagine. Like just so pretty. It's such a far view that there's that haze across the horizon because it's just that vast of a distance. So we look around. We take some content, take some videos, whatnot. It's like more luxurious than I can imagine. And I've had a few nice meals in my time, but it was just incredible. And the fact that they were allowing all of us to come and just for the exchange of content was incredible. Then we sit down, we listen to the chef and a few of the managers of the event and, the PR person for Big Cedar and everyone speaking and telling us all about this venue and their mission for it and how they're bringing 70 acts next year. And they said it's some big names that they can't announce yet, but they're really incredibly excited to have coming in. Obviously, this year they had Morgan Wallen, the Rolling Stones are coming, Chris Stapleton. So you got to wonder who are they excited about now? Because maybe it'll get added to the Eras tour list. Probably not, but still, that would be great. It was just so much fun. They were so kind. They were so accommodating. Thunder Ridge is one of the most amazing venues I've ever had the pleasure of attending. I've gone to 3 concerts there. It's just never any less stunning. Each time you go, I don't think it would ever lose its luster. The food was amazing, and just the care that they put into finding locally sourced vendors for everything from the stone on the outside of the building to the wooden paneling on the inside, and the fish is caught locally, and everything is just so intentional, and it shows. You can tell that everyone there, from the chef to the servers to the marketing team, they just truly care about being there, and it was an amazing experience. So Thunder Ridge, thank you so much for having me. It was so much fun. Morgan, thanks for being my +1. Also, Austin, thank you for being our chauffeur and photographer for the afternoon. It was wonderful. I had the best time ever. So if you saw my stories and you were questioning why the heck I was invited, I'm right there with you, but it was amazing, and hopefully we'll get to do more fun stuff like that in the future. Next, let's go back in time, talk about my weekend. I don't know if this is a universal experience, again, or if it's just me. But whenever I have one vision of weather in my head and then it changes, I have a really slow transition time to go back and forth between the two of them. Let me explain what I mean by that. So I was very busy last week and I saw the forecast Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's supposed to be very sunny, warm, high UV, etc. I front loaded my week with lots of work, got as much of it done as I could. I was working longer days so I could take Friday away from work and go to the pool. That was my game plan. That was my motivation. I love the pool. I love the outside. Hadn't gotten to lay out really all week because it was busy. So I was just cranking through everything, trying to get it done with the intention of like that light at the end of the tunnel, which is the sun at the pool. And then I wake up Friday morning and it's gloomy and it's rainy. I really had a funk that like just it was like whenever you throw a cape over a bird cage, the bird just goes to sleep. That's what happens to me when it rains. I just suddenly lose all my motivation. I don't want to go outside. I don't want to put makeup on. It's like I want to stay cozy. It's not like a sad mood. It's just I don't want to do anything. So I have been looking forward to this so badly. It just didn't happen. That's okay. First world problem. So then I pivot mentally. Like, no, it's fine. I'll come back home. I'll get a head break next week, do some work then. Then maybe next week I can go to that or, we'll make this a cozy day. So then I have the blinds kind of open up. You can see the rain. It's cozy. It's cloudy. I have a coffee, getting some things done. I'm in my sweatpants. And I had committed to that mentality for the rest of the day, only for the sun to come out at 4 p.m. And that, again, caused me to struggle with transitioning because at that point I'm in full relax mode. I'm cozy. I have my laptop on my lap. It's like a little heating pad. I'm curled up. I'm so into this zone now. I was proud of myself for not throwing a huge hissy fit and just moving into this zone. Now you're telling me it's going to be 95 and sunny the rest of the night and the sun is like an oppressive beam coming through the sides of my blackout curtains into my home. And now I know it's sunny outside. Now I feel like I have to go outside because I hate missing daylight. So now I have this conundrum where I don't want to leave, but because the sun has come out. 2 days in a row that happened. That happened Friday. Then Saturday, I was thinking maybe I'll make up for today, not being able to go enjoy the spoils of the sun. I had a shoot in the morning, was going to come back home, lay out, enjoy the pool, and then move on with my evening. Of course not. It's cold and rainy again in the morning, but it didn't work because I get a call from my husband while I'm at my shoot, and he says, "Hey, I think our fridge is going out." Now, you guys just heard last week that our roofs were leaking. We had to have that fixed on Monday. This is now Saturday, and he's like, "I think our roof is, or our fridge is going out." So, oh, that's so awesome. Had to call my mom, and I was like, "Mom, can you please go to my house? Because we have so much meat. We just bought like half a cow, and it's all in the freezer. And that is not cheap." So, if I would have lost all of that meat, I think I would have probably cried and committed some kind of crime. But my parents came to the rescue, took all of our meat out of our freezer, and then it's just the logistical hassle of having an issue with your home that's so overwhelming. Where I was like, at the shoot, trying to be present. It was for American Cancer Society. It was such a good cause. I want to be fully present in that day. But then I'm thinking, okay, so if our fridge is going out, then we have to call the company to see if there's a warranty. And then if there is a warranty, we have to figure out how we have to go through the steps, blah, blah, blah. Call a vendor, come out here, have them check it. When can we have everything? And then just the displacement of with air conditioning or fridges or just different things that interrupt your rhythm of life. It's so frustrating because you now have to work around the issue because when the air conditioning goes out, obviously you don't want to be home. So you have to figure out where else you can be. When you don't have a fridge, you are limited in what you can even keep in the house because you have to have refrigeration. So then again, you have to just work around the issue. So even though they're first world problems and, Kim, there's people that are dying, it's still just frustrating. And we have had so many issues and they say bad things happen in threes. That's not been true for me because we had the air conditioning happen. Then I had my tires and then I had my ring and then we had the roof and now I had the fridge. So I'm like, okay, so are we doing a second round? Like, are we running this back? We're doing like a double header of bad things that are happening in threes. If so, I'm manifesting that my third thing is like a broken nail or something very minor because it's costly for one, and it's also just frustrating. And then you start to look over your shoulder, like every single time the house creaks in a weird way, I'm like, what is that? Like, is the foundation breaking? Is our house going to split in half over a sinkhole? I don't know. That was very overwhelming. So, it probably worked out best because if it was sunny and I had to go home and address the fridge situation, I would have been even mad, but at least I knew I could find solace in the fact that it was a bland and gloomy day. Turns out the freezer can just get overwhelmed if you have it overfilled, which is such a silly thing to say. But we had so much stuff in there. We just gone to Sam's and we kind of stocked up on a bunch of things. And I think it was just too full and it couldn't freeze. So we had to go through the whole process of like letting it cool back down. Then we got all of our stuff back, put it in the fridge. ultimately, it was probably best case scenario. We had to go have that issue. It was still just incredibly frustrating, especially considering we just went through the whole roof thing less than 5 days later, prior, whatever. Anywho, Sunday was bright and sunny, and I did sit my butt by the pool and not move the entire day. So fear not, everything was fine. I know those are first world problems, but it's just something that I'm so affected by the weather. Like, I can get down with either. I can get down with a gloomy day or a hot day or a stormy day. I can get down with inclement weather, even. I don't care. I just have a hard time pivoting between the various options. So let me know if you relate to that or if it's just me. That could be something where I'm just cuckoo bananas. And if so, it's not going to change because that's just who I am. I also have been having some moodiness and just like the same crises that I've been having, but we'll return to that. So let me skip along. On Friday, I was trying to assuage my bad mood because I was stuck in the house and I got a bunch of work done. So it did help me get a little bit ahead for the week, which is a good thing now that I'm in the week. But at the time, I was getting stir crazy in the house. So I was thrifting with my dad. There's like a little store Nixa. So fun, but I always forget about it because it's on the opposite side of town that I never drive down. So I was like, Dad, do you want to go to half of me? And he's like, yeah, okay, whatever. And then I realized I don't want to drive all the way to Springfield, which is not that far. Like people who live in a big city would be like, that's 20 minutes away. That's not that big of a deal. So we went to this thrift store in Nixa and I spent $30. I got two pairs of boots that are almost identical to the kind that I've been looking for and was about to pull the trigger on buying a more expensive pair, but I found them for $9 and $10 respectively. I also found two pairs of jeans and two pairs of jean shorts. And we found this giant stocking that's literally 5 feet tall that we bought like a fun. Why would you buy it? It was $6. So I got a good thrift haul. I was honestly really pleasantly surprised with the boots. I'm a big boot. If there's one thing about me, if there's a stupid t-shirt that doesn't make sense, or if there's a pair of boots, I'm going to probably snag them. Boots and shorts, boots and skirts, boots and dresses. It's just one of my favorite things. Probably because I have cankles, but that's neither here nor there. Moving forward, went to a Cardinals game in Springfield. We have a market here that I often forget that we even have, but I was informed by my amazing friend Ariel that it is Marvel Night. So on Saturday, Austin and I went to church, then went to Marvel Night. It was fun. We didn't watch much of the game, and by we, I mean I didn't watch much of the game. I was watching the trivia on the big screen and seeing how much I answer. I am the best. I know everything there is to know. I'm actually a little bit rusty because I haven't watched as many Marvel movies. I know. Who am I? But got a hot dog, got a giant Coke, which I don't even like soda that much. I don't really ever drink soda. I like a good Diet Coke every so often, but I got like a massive Route 44 Coke for some reason because it just felt right to have at a baseball game and I don't drink beer. So it was a good time. I really enjoyed it. The vibes were fantastic. But I would definitely recommend it. We had some luck because of all the rain. It was cooler and it wasn't as humid. I can only imagine going to a game on a day when the sun is like so respect to those who work outdoors. Speaking of, Evan started his contract job. He's working in masonry. He's outside every day from like 6:45 to whatever time. And he's a psychopath because yesterday I called him and he went from his 8.5 hour shift outside in the sun moving heavy things, went home at 8 and then went to the gym. So can you imagine how obnoxious that is for me to have as a brother where I'm just trying to live my life and then that's the other sibling? Can we just go for a walk? Could you have a carb? I don't know. I love him though. It can be a bit much. Moving forward, I don't know. I always do this where I look at all my updates. I'm like, I don't really want to talk about the deep stuff yet. I'm having a good time. Alas, let's do a report. So reading, I finally started Throne of Glass. It's very good. I'm almost at the first book. 2 days ago. It's kind of giving me fan fiction vibes in a way. I know she wrote this when she was young because people had warned me that the writing style was like a little bit more remedial than her later books, and you can tell. I love it. Do I think I could do better? Probably not. But of course I would like to say I could do better, but no. She it's a more like I said, trope heavy book. So you can see the sassy assassin and like these two guys seem to have feelings for her and she's so like beautiful and sweet and kind. She's also like lethal and she's young. It's like all these things that just happen in a fantasy slash dystopian novel. But of course I'm eating it up. I love it. Can't wait to get on with the rest of the series, I believe. So if you're interested, probably follow my TikTok. I'll be posting about that because I don't want to give these spoilers in the podcast. But so far, book one, great. Eating pizza. You guys know my pizza order. We had Domino's for the first time in like a month on Friday. It was amazing. I got the garlic parmesan sauce with sausage and pineapple. Most amazing pizza. You got to get pan. You cannot get thin crust. It's just not the same. Again, playing. We watched all of Tires on Netflix. We're between shows because we can't agree. Austin wants like a deep plot heavy show and I want a show where I can turn my brain off. So we just have been at odds. It's been like Hunger Games 4 in my household because we just can't decide. So we watch Tires. It's like The Office, but a tire shop. Very funny. Only 6 episodes. Very sad. I also need new podcast recommendations because I feel like I'm just burnt out. I've been listening to a lot of Brittany Broski and then Tiny Meat Gang, Brooke and Connor make a podcast, and I'm just burnt out of all of them. I don't know. Also, there's so much scandal in the influencer space, and sometimes it's just exhausting. I want to listen to like another just normal person podcast, I guess. So if you have any recommendations, let me know. I love Emma Chamberlain's podcast, but I always just devour those, so it's hard to get enough of her content. So shout out to Cash Money Morgan. She's fantastic. Lakin, love letters from Lakin. I love your podcast. It's brand new. You guys should listen to it if you haven't. But if you have any recommendations, let me know. Obsessing. I don't really have a new obsession. Like I was on tennis for a while and I had to kind of stop because Austin had a surgery. Hopefully I'll get back into that. But I'm really between obsessions. I don't have like a crazy anything right now. So we got no celebrity crush, no tier ones. I'm maybe anticipating getting super into Throne of Glass, but there's not anything that I'm really being manic over. A little slower in these parts. So hopefully we'll get something going in soon so that I can really sink my teeth into that. Recommending long walks and dancing. Again, I'm between every obsession. I really haven't been feeling working out, and I love to work out. There are some times that I'll work out 2 or 3 times in a day just because it's fun, and I've just not been in that space. It's like last week I just was like, and I've just been in like a more mellow, like whatever, just chill, cozy. Could do Pilates. Probably will start doing that because the studio is offering different Pilates classes. That could be fun. Anyways, the point is like I've just not been feeling really a lot of my normal things, so I'm waiting for something to come in and fill the gap. So hopefully something will. But the thing I've been enjoying is like long walks. Like so cringe, but hear me out. So I went to a trail yesterday. There's nobody there. It's like a big field in a wooded area, just absolutely teeming with bugs and critters. Not great in that regard, but I had so much fun. High socks and bug spray are your besties. You'll be fine. So, and I feel like if somebody were to also be walking on the trail and look over and see me, it would be the most cringy thing. It would probably go viral out of like when somebody thinks they're the main character cringe. But it's just so fun, like just dancing. No one's looking at it. It's just like listening to music. And then sometimes I'll like do a little skip and sometimes I'll just walk and sometimes like doing one of these, sometimes like doing one of these. It just depends. But it's great and it's very freeing. So recommend doing that. And you surprisingly will burn more calories than you think because I get down. But anyways, treating thrift stores, you know this. I treated myself to a thrift on Friday because I needed to, because I was bummed out that there was no sun. Anywho, I've been talking for 28 minutes and haven't even gotten to the meat of the episode, but that's where I've been. That's what's going on. It's been a minute since a solo episode because we had Kendall and Evan, but that's where we're at. That's what's going on in my life. Not a whole lot has changed. We're shooting content. We're doing fun stuff. Like I said, this time last year was super crazy and chaotic, preparing to go on my work trip. So I definitely am soaking in not being as busy because that was such a fun time period and I'm so thankful for it. And it's exactly what I wanted and needed at that point. But it is nice to have a little bit more reasonable pace this year and not quite as much on my toppling to-do list. Yes, anyways, the topic. Today we're talking about jealousy. I have a lot to say. First, to introduce the topic, let me give you an update on my baby journey. There isn't one, unfortunately. So I've been tracking ovulation for the first month. Like I haven't done that up to this point because it's still been somewhat reasonable, like early. And they say that, you know, it can take a couple up to a year to get pregnant, sometimes longer. And there can be nothing wrong. Like it's just because there's only a 20% chance to conceive every cycle, which they don't tell you in health class. They're just like, don't look at boys like you could get pregnant. So we're on our obviously conception grind. We're trying to get this done. And I started tracking ovulation. If you're a man, you're not going to care about this. I don't think you would have cared about the first 29 minutes and 48 seconds, but you're not going to either. To track it, you pick these with a little tab on them. You have to go to the bathroom, pee in the cup. Try not to overflow it. Obviously, that's disgusting. Take it set it down, get your little strip, dip the strip in it for 5 seconds, pull the strip out, wait for the ink to like fully go over the ink, the whatever it is, the color. And then you have to set it down. After 5 minutes, you have a 10-minute window to take the photo. All these numbers, it's a little stressful, and it's supposed to be like the same time every day. So I'm also tracking my basal body temperature, which is your temperature first thing in the morning, like your lowest temperature. And I try and just do them all at once. But now I've given myself a complex. I know I mentioned this with Kindle, but I know that I have to do things in the morning, and it's led to me waking up earlier, like feeling like I have forgotten to do them. So every morning I wake up, and my alarm is usually around 7 or 7:30, except for today and yesterday, very early. But I will wake up at like 5:45 in a panic, and you're supposed to take your temperature before you do a lot of things, because once you get your heart rate going, like if you get up and go to the bathroom or you start talking or you sit up, then your temperature rises, so it's not an accurate reading. And I know that sometimes you just can't help if you like roll over before you get your thermometer. Like things, there's small things that you just can't control, and those are nominal anyways. But now I have a complex where I roll over and I like reach my thermometer and try and take it, and it, of course it's beeping and it's loud, then I have to get up and go do my stuff. It's a whole thing. And while I don't anticipate results from that first month, like this is the first time we've been tracking this way, and that's not realistic to be like, oh my gosh, this is going to change everything. It's going to happen this month. It always is in the back of your head, you know, you're changing something about your strategy. Maybe it will yield a different result. So trying to find the balance between being boldly faithful and hopeful and expectant of these, you know, miracles and good news, but also being realistic and protecting yourself and not letting your hopes get too high. Very difficult as it is, because I am a person and somewhat of an optimist. So trying to figure out all these things is very difficult, and you can't always rein in your emotions. Also, this is the month that we were supposed to be due with the baby that we lost back in November. So it was already going to be an emotional month anyways. And I have a few friends that are due this month, and I think one of them has already had her baby and she's beautiful. One of them is due any day. And it's just challenging because life is always such a miracle, but then it's difficult to see, you know, these beautiful conclusions to a pregnancy and beautiful babies and beautiful families being started, and then kind of just be like, you know, we're still waiting. And I know that so many people's fertility journeys stretch on far longer than ours has even begun to touch. But now that we've gotten to the 9-month point, it's a little bit disheartening, because I had hoped to have some kind of progress by now and some kind of like just something to show. And the fact that we're still kind of just spinning our wheels like, well, I think this is the right thing, I think this is working, I don't know, is just difficult. So sometimes it's hard to, you know, keep pushing forward. And there's just so much waiting when you're trying for a baby, because you have a limited window of when you ovulate, and you're watching, you know, you're tracking this app and you're watching all these things and you're trying to see when your levels spike and so on. And then you have to obviously act, and then you move forward, and then you have to wait 2 weeks before you can take a pregnancy test. And then in between those 2 weeks, you may or may not have symptoms. But the crazy thing is that symptoms could be from progesterone supplements, they could be from PMS, they could be from pregnancy. So whenever you live in your body and you're trying so hard to be attentive to it, so you're taking temperatures every day, you're tracking ovulation, you see the immediate results from all of these things, it's hard to be diligent and consistent with tracking, but also not be obsessive. And one of the most common things that people say, when I'm like, it's just so hard because I'm so in tune with my body, and it's hard not to hyperfixate. They're like, oh, you just can't think about it too much. Like you have to, you know, take a step back and unplug and like just relax. It always happens when you relax. And I know that's said with good intentions, but I don't know how to do that, because every time I take my temperature, I'm like, oh, it dropped. That's not good. Oh, it's up. That's good. Oh, it dropped. That's not good. And you see all these results so instantaneously that it's almost impossible to separate yourself from what you're constantly being fed with inside your body. You know what I mean? It's just, I can't not think about it, because of course, if I get a cramp, I'm like, ooh, what was that? Is that PMS? Is that pregnancy? It's just very challenging to, I guess, clear your head of something that you, one, want so badly, two, you're already spending time to track, because I want to make sure I have accurate results. Like, should we talk to a different doctor, you know, everything else. I want to make sure I have information for them, and I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing to give us the best chance. However, it can be difficult to do that and not make it my entire focus all the time. So that's something that I've been struggling with, and it has such a bearing on my mood. Like if I get a reading that seems like it's good, you know, if my temperature goes up and I'm like, ooh, maybe that's a good sign, it will make me in a great mood for the rest of the day. On the opposite side, if my temperature goes down, which is, if you don't know, it's typically a sign like when you ovulate, your temperature goes up, your basal body temperature to prove that you've ovulated because of like a surge of stays up for a consistently long time, usually that's a sign of pregnancy because it will not go back down because obviously your body's making more hormones and so on. If it goes back down, it's usually a sign that you're about to start your period. Mine has been going back down. So, of course, I'm devastated, so sad. And no matter how unrealistic it was to expect us to get pregnant the first month that we were trying in this way, it still is in the back of your head. And like, I'm just a person. So it's so easy to think like, oh, this would have been so great. Like it could have happened in July and like this would have been so beautiful. And, I just found out another person very close to me is pregnant and so deserving, not that you have to earn the right to be pregnant or for me to be happy for anyone, but they deserve it so much. They've been trying for so long. Like this is a miracle for them, but it's always just challenging. And I've been really struggling because everyone, it feels like, is pregnant right now. Every time I turn around, somebody else is announcing something. It's always the little ultrasound picture in the field. It's always the pregnancy test and the cork board. And it seriously has gotten to a point like now Gypsy Rose is pregnant. Margot Robbie, pregnant. Who else? There's somebody else. Found out this morning, Logan Paul, of all people, and his girlfriend are pregnant, fiance, I don't know. And it's almost comical to the point that I'm like, Brittany Mahomes, pregnant. I'm like, is there something in the water? Like, what are you guys doing? How is everyone popping out babies? And I know that it's like, when you're looking for something, you always see it. But I've been struggling with comparison a lot more lately, I think because I had this renewed optimism for this month, and then I'm extra hyper aware because previously it's like, well, we're just kind of blind trying and just seeing what happens. And now knowing that there was a window and then being like, oh, still didn't work. So I guess we'll try again. And that's normal. That's totally realistic. Like I said, there's a 20% chance every month. That's not very high. That's very low. So nothing is wrong. It's just very difficult to be aware of everything all the time and then see it with other people. And then I finally had cried to Austin, and I'm not a big crier. I don't really enjoy it too much. I know some of y'all do, but it's not for me. But I was crying and I'm like, how many more announcements are we going to have to see before it's our turn? And then of course I feel guilty because how many people have waited for 5 times this long? And, I'm still wanting our journey to end happily, quickly. And so many people are still praying after years and after IVF and after so much, heartache and struggle. And here I am just being like, God, it's been too long. Like, can we please move on with this? So that's been kind of the struggle with where I'm at. But that leads me to the topic of the day, which is jealousy. So obviously you can guess what I'm jealous of. Everybody who's popping out babies right now, I'm so happy for you guys. Truly, I know that it's not an easy journey. Like I'm sure that some of you are just in the thick of pregnancy and not feeling great and your ankles are swollen and you're sick and everything else. Like it's not to say that it's the cure to all your problems. It's just something that, we are wanting for our family in our life. But my empathy is still with those of you who are in pregnancy and not feeling your absolute best or struggling with, financial difficulties or anything else as a result. So that is my envy right now. And I've been working on that within myself because it's such a close cousin to resentment and to anger and to bitterness and everything else. So when I can tell that I'm getting jealous and looking at people and being like, why is she getting pregnant so fast? Why is she doing this? Why is this person like, they just started trying or everything else? It's so difficult to not be, bitter and to not resent other people. And I even have a close friend of mine and both of us are coming off of miscarriages and both of us are trying. And we had a conversation pretty candidly and we're like, it's going to be hard for whoever gets pregnant first because the other person's obviously going to be hurt. And we've been a really good support system for each other over the past few weeks and months, just because both of us are struggling with, waiting and not really knowing what's going on. And part of it is that there's nothing going on. Like you're just waiting and that's just how it is. But even if we have been in this together for however long, and we both understand how much the other person wants this, it's always hard when it happens for someone else before you. And that's just the human nature of everything. So we had a conversation like, how should we tell each other? How should we make it, the least uncomfortable and the most tactful and like give the other person a second to process it before it becomes a whole thing. And, the last thing you want whenever you're kind of in this season is to just be blindsided. And especially whenever it's in person or you have to react to something and be like, oh, amazing. That's so great. And your heart is just breaking. So I'm so thankful that I have that kind of friendship and many friendships around me where people have been so supportive, but it's always just difficult. And then of course I have the fear too, like what if it happens for me before some of my friends whose journeys have lasted much longer than mine, my friends that have gone through, months or years or multiple miscarriages and all these things. What if it happens for me before them? Then I have this fear and this almost guilt before anything has even happened that, it hasn't happened for them yet. And it's just such a complex thing. But all that to say, jealousy it's such an awful thing to feel. And of course, we all feel jealous all the time. I can think of so many different times that I have felt jealous in my lifetime. And probably just perpetually. I've probably just always been jealous. I think we all have something that we're jealous of at some point. And it can be as simple as like you see something on Instagram, you feel a pang of jealousy, and then you move on with your day. Or it can be something where it's more all consuming, like you are jealous of something for a consistently long period of time. You're jealous of someone. And a few things that stand out to me about times I've been extremely jealous in the past one of them was ongoing, but it was relating to my skin. And I've always struggled with acne. I've talked about that so many times where any friend that I had, any girl, I was always so envious of their skin. And so I was definitely bitter because if everyone has that friend where they like get the tiniest little like speck on their skin and they're like, oh, I'm so broken out. Like my skin is so bad. And you're like, I could smack you so hard right now. But they just don't understand it. And I think that it's another thing that you don't wish on someone because it's so jarring to your confidence. And it really does, I think, shape a lot of the way that you see yourself and, your confidence when you want to go out in public and when you don't and so on. But I do think that it's something that people should experience at some point because it gives you empathy and it makes you, remember that it's not a reflection of your hygiene. It's not a reflection of, your value, anything else. Like you just sometimes can't help your skin. Sometimes it's your genetics, it's your circumstance. Like you just can't help it. So I think that everyone should maybe have an acne journey of their own. And then hopefully it passes for everybody. But that's something that I've always struggled with is very intense jealousy towards people in my life that have had clear skin. And especially during periods where I've struggled with like breakouts on my shoulders or on my chest and things where it truly felt debilitating to my confidence to go out. And seeing people that could just throw on a bikini or throw on a crop top or throw on like a little tank top, spaghetti straps, and like it just didn't matter. I was so envious. And even back in like 8th grade dances, I would have to find like a little cardigan or like a shrug to wear over my dress because I was so terrified that people would see that I was broken out on my shoulders. And my friends would just, perfect clear baby skin, hadn't hit puberty yet, tiny little bodies, little like spaghetti strap dress. And I just remember feeling so envious and so angry. Like, why me? Why do I feel like a troll with my frizzy hair and my acne and my red face and like my skin so oily and I hit puberty and now I feel fat next to them. And that's like the first era that I remember feeling genuinely very jealous of other girls. And that was an ongoing thing, from probably 4th or 5th grade all the way through high school and college. Like it was just always a struggle for me. Like would have to, take an oil sheet or take a compact and blot my skin. And some friends could just like walk out with no makeup and have the most perfect skin of their life. And then you have to choose, do you want red blotchy skin or do you want to have caked on makeup skin? And that has always been something that's so difficult for me. It wasn't until I had a conversation with a friend, after years of being mad about that, where we were just talking about something and she's like, I just feel like I would not have any anxiety if I was fit like you. And I was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, you're just skinny and fit. And I feel like I would not have any issues if I just looked like that. And I was like, I would give that up to have clear skin. Like I'm so stressed all the time. And I was to the point that I didn't feel attractive at all. I'm like, no one's looking at me regardless. No one even sees my body because they see my skin and it's so bad. And it was almost like an epiphany for both of us where we each focused on what we saw as the other person's strength and we only focused on our own weaknesses. And then of course we joke, if we could just combine our features, we would be so hot. But the truth is like, we're already hot. It's just, we all have our own insecurities and every girl has something where they wish was different. Like my hair is very thick and curly. My sister-in-law's is very beautiful and straight and fine. And we always talk about like, I wish my hair would dry straight. I wouldn't have to do anything to it. It would just be so nice. She always wishes that she had some curls and some volume, and we always want what we can't have. And it's very sad, but that's the truth. So I think that was my first lesson, is realizing that somebody is looking at you envious just at the same time as you're looking at someone else envious. And it might not always be so reciprocal as like the exact person that you're jealous of is jealous of you, but sometimes life is just poetic in a really dark way. And that's how it can be. So that was the first time that I remember being very, very jealous. And then the next thing for me was financial. And I had always been very independent. And hang on, I'm talking too much. I had to have a sip of coffee. I've always been very independent. I moved out whenever I was 17. I've had a job since I was 15. I always wanted to make my own money and my own, success and be able to provide for myself and so on. So that was my source of pride. And in a way, it was my source of identity because I never felt like I was the prettiest of my friends. Like I always had gorgeous friends. Still do. Very annoying if you like feeling confident. So love all my friends, love having hot friends, but it's definitely a challenge at sometimes. So I was like, this is my thing. Like, maybe I'm not the prettiest of my friends, but I can definitely be the most successful. I can have the most money. I can get the most promotions. I can work the hardest. And that became my identity and kind of my assurance to myself, because that was my crutch. And as much as I do love working and I love my jobs that I've had, I needed them as much as, as much emotionally as I did financially. So, I lived on my own, had saved some money, went to college, paid for college as I was going through it. I had to finance some of it, pay that off, had a car, paid that off. I had to move home for a little bit just because I wanted to get all of my debt paid off. And it's just obviously very challenging to live on your own and pay your bills and pay off debt and so on. So I moved home for about a year. I think whenever I was 21, and paid off the rest of my college and paid off my car, and then was able to save some money. And that was a huge help for me. So I remember being so envious because I don't know what it was. I had gotten wind of someone in my life that had a decent sized savings account. And this is one of those friends where their parents pay their credit card and their parents paid for their college and their parents help them with their car payment every so often. And like they have like their credit card that their parents pay, but they also have their parents' credit card. And it was just one of those things that I was so angry about, because it felt like defeat to me, because that's supposed to be my thing. I'm supposed to be the saver friend. I'm supposed to be the one that's responsible and smart and financially savvy and works harder and has more money, because that's what I'm good at. I know that's what I'm good at. And to hear that from somebody that I didn't deem as much of a hard worker, or somebody that had been as deserving of that status, I suppose, as I was, that was a huge shot to me, to the point that I was like, I perseverated and I was thinking about that for so long. And that was a big insecurity. So then I was jealous of any person that I don't even know how I was getting this information. Like, people just talk and, your friends and this and that. And I was like, how do they have so much money saved up? Like, I'm doing everything I can. I've had a full-time job since I was 18 years old. Like, how are these people doing more than me? And the bottom line is that some people have more help. Some people have different circumstances. Some people get different strokes of luck than you. Some people's parents have more money than yours. And that's just how life is. It's not always fair. And I struggled with such bad envy for that it also drove me to be a harder worker, which is good. But then you have to ask yourself, are you working hard because you're chasing something, or are you working hard because you're proving something? And sometimes those are not always healthy. So that was a big insecurity of mine too. And now I can look back, because I spent lots of time and money with the dermatologist and at the med spa. Also, I've grown up, so that has been somewhat helpful now that I'm 25 and not 18. And I've worked incredibly hard to get to myself to a state with both my finances and my skin that I'm proud of. But these are probably 10 to 15-year processes of overcoming this jealousy. And the thing is, you can't just overcome jealousy by changing your circumstance. Like, you can't be jealous of somebody for being hotter than you, quotes, hotter than you, and then overcome that jealousy by becoming hotter yourself. Because there's never a point with any aspect of your life that you can outrun comparison, or that you can outperform comparison, or any of those things. And as long as comparison exists, jealousy will be right behind it, because you'll never see yourself as others see you. You'll never see others as they see themselves. And you also have to remember that jealousy is, you're only able to be jealous of a situation from the vantage point that you perceive it. So whenever I'm looking at all of these people and their babies and their happiness and their lives, I can only be jealous of, oh my gosh, they're fertile, they're so happy, their baby is beautiful, how lucky are they? I can't be jealous of, like, maybe their marriage is falling apart because they had 2 kids back to back. Maybe they're so insecure about their body and they haven't been able to give themselves any time. Maybe they're struggling with postpartum depression. Maybe they weren't financially prepared for this child and now they don't know how they're going to make ends meet. I can't see any of that. I can only be envious of the narrative that I've made up in my head based on the limited perspective that I have. So when someone's looking at someone else and, you're envious of some girl because her life seems perfect, you're only seeing probably this much of it. And even if it's a close friend of yours, you still can't see the whole thing. You don't know what it's like to be in her head. You don't know what it's like to be in her relationships. You don't know what it's like to be in her body. And I think that's one of the most important things to remember with jealousy, is that you only can judge a situation and compare yourself to someone else from the information that you're presented with. And if you don't have the full picture, you're jealous of something that you made up. You're basically jealous of something fictional, because unless you know exactly the situation and exactly what it's like to be that person, which is impossible, there's no way to definitively say they have it better than me. Of course, a lot of times, you can look at a celebrity and be like, okay, she probably has it better. Like Alex Earl probably has a pretty nice life, but you also don't know what it's like to be on the negative side of things. So all that to say, you have to remember that jealousy is very skewed. It's like looking through one of those funhouse mirrors at a carnival, it's distorted. It's not accurate. It's based on your insecurities, your limited perception, and it's not to be trusted. However, it's very difficult to do. So I think that you have to ask yourself, if you're jealous of somebody, is it because of an insecurity of your own? Most of the time it is. All of my jealousy comes from insecurity. I never look at somebody like if I'm confident, like I love my business. I'm confident with where it's at. I love the place where it is. I love the exact amount of money that it brings in. I'm not looking to be busier. I'm not looking to be slower. Like I love where it's at. I'm not insecure about my business. So when I see someone else performing well, I don't feel jealous of them because I recognize they're doing more work than me. I don't want to do that much work right now. I want this level of business with this lifestyle. That's easy for me not to be jealous of because I don't have an insecurity. But in all the other points in my life, if I was financially insecure, physically insecure right now, longing for a family to start, those are in word deep points of contention within my own soul. So it's very easy for me to get jealous of them. And I think that in those situations, you have to ask yourself, when you find yourself jealous, is this something I can control or is it not? For example, whenever I was jealous financially, I was jealous of people who had more money saved, who had no debt, who had a better situation than me. That was something I can control. So I worked my ass off and I worked at overtime. I got a second job whenever I was 18. I started a business. I worked so hard. I worked 70-hour weeks. I stayed up late. I did everything I could to not let that be something I could be jealous of anymore. And it worked. But in other situations, sometimes with your skin, sometimes with fertility, I can't do anything about this. Like I no amount of jealousy can make me more fertile. I can't make myself get pregnant faster because of how, you can't work yourself into those things. There are just some situations that, you can't will to happen. You can pray, you can do what you're supposed to do, you can consult with doctors, but at the end of the day, it's out of my hands. So when you find yourself jealous, you have to ask yourself, is this something I can control or is it something I can't? And if it's something you can control, take the reins, work hard, do what you have to do, take the steps, get in the gym, work harder at your job, pick up an extra shift, do what you need to do to improve your marriage. Take control. If you have no control over it, you have no control over it. So you have to let it go and understand that everyone's life is different. There's no 100% cure to jealousy because you will never have the same life as anybody else. How boring would that be? Like if we all looked the same, if we all had the same amount of money, if we all had the same interest, if we all had the same success, the same results, nothing would be fun. There would be no competition. There would be no result for hard work. There would be no diversity. There would be no differences between us. And it would be really sad. So you have to have this vastly different group of personalities and bodies and everything in order for life to be so colorful and fun. But with that, there's comparison. With that, there's jealousy, bitterness, resentment, and so on. Unfortunately, it's just part of life and human nature. So you have to ask yourself, where is your jealousy coming from? Is it from insecurity? And then address the insecurity. If you're struggling with jealousy in just every way, you're probably unhappy with yourself or your life. So what can you change about that? What can you do to make yourself fall more in love with your own life and your own self? And I also think that if you spend so much time working on yourself, you don't have time to be jealous of someone else. Whenever you are constantly looking around, at what she's doing, what she has, and what she looks like, you don't have time to work on yourself because all of your energy is going towards questioning why those things weren't given to you. But if you're busy and you're working on your skincare, you're going to the gym, you're working on your marriage, you're working on your relationships, your friendships, you are pursuing excellence in the things that you deem to be your path, that's how you distract yourself. That's how you get over jealousy. And of course, it's always going to hit you. We're just people. We are just girls. But it's very difficult to be jealous when you're focused on improving yourself and you're focused on gratitude. So those are the things that I try and focus on. Like right now, knowing that the situation is out of my control, giving it to God, praying, doing what I can do. And for me, giving it to God literally means every time it pops into my head, being like, God, give me a distraction. Let me focus on something else. This is not my job. This is not my place. This is for you. And then 5 seconds later, when it pops back into my head, thinking, God, take this thought away. Let me just be present today. Let me focus on my life and then moving on. And then, of course, 20 minutes later, comes back into my head, God, I'm giving it back to you. So it's a constant cycle. It's, for me, giving it to God. It's being focused on the things in my life that are good. I have been trying so hard to focus on gratitude because I truly am so blessed. My marriage, my friends, I'm so close with my family. I have this beautiful podcasting studio. I have the listeners that I can chat with and like truly get on a deep level and share what we're going through in life. I have a thriving business. I have amazing clients. So many good things are happening around me. So if I'm only sitting here focused on what other people have been blessed with that I haven't, I'm not proving that I'm worthy of another blessing because I am not grateful for any of the ones that I have. Anywho, I think that it's just something that you have to be very brutally honest with yourself. Nobody wants to admit that they're jealous. It's almost like admitting like a deep level of weakness. It's not. It's just being a human, but it is very challenging. So I think you have to be very aware of where you're weak and how you can make yourself strong. And it's difficult to address your own weaknesses, especially whenever you're in a place of insecurity already. And that's what jealousy yields. So sometimes we put on this front of bravado and you want to overcompensate and act like you have it all together and act like there's nothing wrong, and maybe even be a little bit mean to your friends, or, your jokes are a little bit too personal or whatever it is. You're trying to overcompensate for the insecurity that you feel. But I think when you're truly confident and you're truly happy with yourself, there's nothing to be envious of. So I don't know. I don't really have a solution because I'm struggling right along with the rest of you, but those are the things that always help me whenever I find myself just so consumed with looking at other people's lives and, what they have going on that maybe I don't. So remember, you're only seeing a small fraction of it. We're all jealous of something. We're all jealous of somebody, and there's only so much that you can do at the end of the day. So try your best to give it to God. And I know that's not the answer that you probably want to hear, but that's the one I got. So hopefully that helps somebody. If you have tips for overcoming jealousy or how you've handled these things in the past, then let me know. Let me know how I can pass them along to our listeners, and, we can make things maybe a little bit more of a team effort. We can all get through this together. So I will update you guys if I have an epiphany, but until then, thank you so much for listening. Honestly, this episode kind of flew by. I'm trying to think of anything else to say because I have ample time still and I am having a great time. It's just that I don't want to keep talking in circles about the same kinds of things. So I truly do appreciate you guys tuning in and listening every single week. I can't believe we're almost episode 90. After these next two guests, I'm going to be recording the 90th episode, and then we only have 10 weeks until our 2-year, which is just absolutely crazy town. So I guess that's all I got. Sorry, guys. I'm not just going to keep talking and fill the dead air, but thank you to everyone who listened and who made it this far. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for just being supportive. So let me know what you think of this episode. Let me know if you relate to it. Make me feel less alone. And I will be sending you guys love and prayers. So I hope you guys have lots of mountains, no valleys. Treat yourself on Friday. Hope you're loving this episode. Happy Thursday, and have a wonderful weekend. Bye.